on the other one, you bastard!
When Third Party first started acting as upgrade kits for official figures, it was a time that was rather akin to the Wild West. Nobody knew what they were doing, there was no precedent set, and many ideas were put out there. Of course, many of them failed and didn't stick, but we got some truly unique and exciting figures. And of course, if anything exists, there's gonna be a small version of it. So before Third Party Legends, before Iron Factory saw what Hasbro was doing with the Legends in the Thrilling 30 line and decided to copy that, things were rather different. And of course, back then, it wasn't good enough to have figures just be their own release. They had to be compatible with something. So we're going to be starting off with the robot modes just because I want to save the surprise of the vehicle modes and the extra little doodads for the end of the video, because trust me, these guys are pretty cool in their concept alone. At first, these guys might not look like much. They are very limited in their articulation, they have several sacrifices to the sculpt work, but for one of the first entries that came out in third party, these are done surprisingly well. For starters, many of the early third party pieces had issues with the plastic quality, especially the early Fans Project and MMC releases. These aren't like that. These are nice, dense, and solid. If anything, they are on Hasbro level, which is remarkable for a piece of this age. And there is also a lot of great detail on show here, even if it is a bit compromised. The chest is absolutely lush, with some wonderful shiny blue paint there. I feel the yellow could be done a little bit thicker, but it's so tiny and so clean for an early third-party figure that I don't really mind. Head sculpt is just lovely. Again, it's such a tiny scale with such tiny eyes. This is all stuff we take for granted on third-party Legends figures today, but back then, back in the period, this was a rarity. These were remarkably well-made figures for their time. And yes, we've got a bit of a backpack, and this might be giving away what he does. But you know, it's still a fantastic little figure. Even if the articulation is a bit limited, you only get a forward arm there, but they've even molded in a fist, which is very nice. Ball joints at the legs, although they do get stuck on the arm on the way out unless you move the arm outwards, but you can get the ball joint outwards. And a ball jointed knee, so you get the thigh swivel and all that jazz. But you know, this is a tiny thing. This is really ridiculously small, so the articulation that you've got is pretty nice. Soundwave though, oh my word, he looks even better. They've gone for a more toy-styled head than many people will be used to, with a much wider headband, but my word, it works remarkably. And yes, the eyes are painted. It's a little difficult to see on camera, but you can see it in person. The chest works much better as well. Granted, Soundwave has a much boxier chest than Optimus Prime, much more square, so it would work with these proportions. But even then, it is a awesome little figure. Same articulation, of course, but you know the drill. It's perfectly understandable given the size and given what they have to do, but I'll get in what they have to do in a little bit. For now, these guys are ridiculously tiny, both at 2.1 centimeters by 5.2 centimeters. Like everything towers over them, including Legion figures, Legends figures, even Earthrise Micromasters, and standard Generation 1 Micromasters like Crumbs. So yeah, these guys are really tiny. It's commendable that they managed to pack in this much detail with this solid plastic for the time period, and the little bit of articulation you do get is perfectly acceptable. Of course, their transformation does leave a lot to be desired, but again, it'll make sense in a little bit. For Prime, push the head down, rotate the legs around like so, and fun fact, I actually had 2 left legs on my original copy. The seller didn't actually give me an entirely new copy, they just sent me a replacement leg, which was very much appreciated. One of the only good experiences I've had on AliExpress, everything else has been pretty shit. Anyway, clamp those together and push the whole thing back into the torso like that, and you've got a very compromised truck, but again, it'll make sense in a bit. The head transforms the same on Soundwave, but here instead you move these out, rotate the legs, and then push it on there. There's no locking tabs, and that is a little bit disappointing, but considering the age of this figure, I do understand. The engineering in third party wasn't as good as it is today. And yeah, Soundwave definitely works better than Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime clearly looks like a robot sitting down, much like what a kid costume would do. And Soundwave, of course, works because, well, that's what his alt mode is. It's literally just an oblong. It's not that hard to do, which makes the C rendition even more hilarious. It's not the best tape in the world. For example, it's still a bit gappy. You don't notice it in person with the gaps here, but on camera it does show up quite a bit. But still, a remarkably well-made figure. The chest is a bit stupid, but the fact that they've molded in these speakers is quite nice. Yes, the G1 version didn't have that, but I like that they're actually doing something new and interesting, because at the size, that's what they have to do. Also, relatively clean from the back, but again, you can see what these guys are going to do in a moment. And you know what? Prime's truck mode is a bit shit, but I really like it. It's incredibly adorable, and the sheer hubris of it is kind of commendable. I love the placement of the silver stripes there, not just to mimic the joint in the bicep, but also to mirror the stripes on the side of the truck mode. Would have been nice if they also continued it on the sides there, but then that would have blended in with the grille, so I do understand why they didn't do it. It's very much reducing the aspects of a truck down to its core ideals, and it's hilarious. But you can tell love and care was put into it. For example, they've even painted all the wheels black and silver. Remarkable job. I also love how some of these dots here act as boosters. It's kind of funny, although I won't tell you what those spikes are because you need to see the surprise soon. Yeah, these alt modes are alright. They're not great, but they are immensely charming. They feel like G1 figures despite the existence of ball joints, and that is by design, as you'll see in a bit. But before we get to that, Prime is again 2.1 centimeters wide, and also 2.2 centimeters tall, and 3 centimeters long. And Soundwave is 4.7 centimeters, including those two little tips of the feet there, by 2 centimeters. Again, these guys are ridiculously tiny, so the sacrifices make perfect sense. However, that's not why they decided to make such sacrifices for this mode, oh no. It is a much more intriguing reason than that. Bring up the feet, rotate them around to the other side, and then fold them against the back. They don't tab in, but they do sit there. It's not like they're going to be bearing any loads, it's just going to sit there much like a Titan Master. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. To push the head back up, you want to take this part here and push it down. And that's going to be needed for what these guys do, because you flip up that. And oh my god, it's a little headmaster for Optimus Prime, and it works perfectly with Generation 1 headmasters. That is an absolutely amazing little concept. Triple changing headmasters, my word, that is cool. It's not too dissimilar from what the Titan Masters did back in the day. There's just one problem. Hollowness over there. That is the one thing I can really complain about this figure. Everything else is marvelous. The head design is epically G1. This looks like a toy from the late 80s. I'm not going to make the late 80s joke again, that's stupid. Oh wait, I just did. And in this case, yeah, the yellow is a bit thin, that is disappointing, but for such an old third-party figure, it is understandable. Again, the only thing I can really complain about is the hollow cranium. That would have been such a cool thing to get right, but it is what it is. And Soundwave does much of the same thing. You bring the legs down, rotate around, and bring over there, and same thing on this side. It's a much more snug fit, so it works much better. And again, you push the head down, and fold up the face. And they really took Soundwave's toy design with the huge head crest and the awesome visor and really made it good. Lovely grilled effects to the visor again. It's a magnificent G1 head sculpt. These are completely compatible with G1 Headmaster figures, so they can look amazing. Again though, hollow cranium. It's not as bad on Soundwave, but I do wish they could have fixed it. It's because they have to push the head up and there are those teeth that actually activate the tech specs. If they had ignored this bit, it would have been fine. But because they can't, because that has to fold up and down, then that is what it is. I feel with Soundwave they could have just not bothered with the backpack and not had this. Problem with Prime is the legs actually need to fold over the top, so that wouldn't have been possible, but it is still remarkable. These two are still remarkable for their time, and I really want to hunt down more of them. It is pretty difficult because only certain versions are available cheaply on the aftermarket, and the others are prohibitively expensive because they are out of production from a company that is defunct. But I'll hunt them down eventually. I definitely will give these a shot. These figures do have some flaws to make the Headmaster gimmick work, and the Headmaster is also compromised, especially in the cranium section there, to have the vehicle modes function. But considering the time they came out, these are remarkably ahead of their time. The plastic especially, it is far denser and far more durable than what people would have been used to when they first came out. And they make wonderful, absolutely wonderful novelty toys. In fact, I usually display these right on the monitor over there. In fact, I'm just going to put them back over there when this is done. Granted, these are a bit expensive on the aftermarket and exceedingly rare, so you might not even find them. Well, not these specifically, but the other guys. I've still got to hunt down a Megatron. But I'll get to it eventually, not just because I'm a completionist, but because there is a lot of fun to be had here. And they weren't the only ones making small-scale figures back in the day. There were several companies that took a shot at it, and some were successful and some were not. So, where do veterans of the community Perfect Effect fit in? Well, tomorrow we shall take a look at that.